Welcome to YouTube channel Knowledge Base. This is Suresh Venkat, connecting world with innovative experts. Today we have guest of honor Mr. Balachandar Kaliappan, who is very good in articulating his viewpoints. Mr. Balachandar is currently working with TUM School of Management, Munich, Germany, as a lecturer in marketing and simultaneously doing his doctorate. He has completed his bachelor's in horticulture and master's in business administration and master's in consumer psychology with business from Bonjour University, UK. His area of interest include consumer decision making, behavioral economics, neuromarketing, and neuroeconomics. Over to you, Mr. Balachandar. Today is going to talk on consumer decision making.
Okay, so welcome everyone, and I'm happy to associate with you and deliver my learnings with you. And thanks for inviting me to this YouTube channel.
It's my pleasure.
Let's go. Let's go ahead without any delay. Okay, I'm going to give you a brief. Today's session is focused on consumer decision making, and my goal is to convey how people make decision, like how as a consumer you make a decision, and also what can be done in order to make the decisions better if you want to make a very good decision and what you're supposed to do. Okay. And whenever you go, the agenda is like, okay, so we'll talk about consumer decision making, and then we'll also talk about choice architecture techniques, right? So let's start with an example here. Right. Imagine everybody now moved online, and we are trying to buy products online. Right. And also we have done the same in the physical store. So you go to a physical store, you look at different products and you compare between products and then buy it. Right. So you wanted to buy the best one for you. Some sort of information is helpful for you. However, the world is kind of cluttered. So you have not only one or two brands that you want to evaluate or compare with, but you have a lot of brands. So imagine that I normally log into Amazon. Amazon tells me that, okay, so you bought these products since 2020, and also you have some products that you recently viewed, but also we have some deals that we are trying to sell you. And also it is not only, it doesn't stop here, because this page normally goes down and basically tells you that there are other recommendations based on your browsing history, other recommendations based on your product relevance, right? So imagine you have already bought a washing machine, and then it will suggest you to buy a dryer, like the washing dryer. So there are n number of information that comes into your brain, and the processing capacity of your brain is very limited, right? You cannot process all this information. So what happens is that it is very difficult for you to come to a optimal decision that is very good for you, right? And let's see why this happens, like how this suboptimal decisions happen, right? And let's just explore a bit over there. In general, your decision making is also depends upon how you search information online, right? So it is sort of one way that the companies facilitate your decision making. So initially, the company give you a lot of choices, and you don't know where to start. Right? You normally start with, okay, let me start at searching for some products, right? And why Google is top, or why any other Amazon or any other companies are top, because they kind of understand what is the consumer goal. So your goal is to find certain products. For example, say I typed here like washing machine. So you wanted to buy a washing machine, so you type it, but you never typed it like this brand I want, right? So sometimes you also search it with the brand. So for example, say I'll search with Bosch, or I'll search with like Whirlpool or something, and I'll put it across. And the search is kind of understood by the algorithms and picks and delivers me certain products, but also these companies will also kind of influence your choices, right? For example, say I search for a washing machine, and it doesn't show me the washing machine directly, but it puts across an advertisement first, right? So, and also there are machines doesn't have price information, because they don't want you to process price information. They want you to process those brand information first, right? Because when we are encountering some sort of difficulty in making choices, as I told you earlier, right? So we make suboptimal choices by just looking at the brand names. So we kind of swayed by the brand names. Right? And also, one way they kind of hinder your processing capacity, they do not give you all the other information that you need, especially like prices and other stuff. So they want you to process information. But other thing, the next thing is that they give you some a sponsored advertisement. So these sponsored advertisement are kind of suggestions that is given to you directly without knowing what is your intention, right? So whether you're looking for price and other things, but there's an advertisement focused on you. And why these advertisements are placed on the top is because they want you to process this information first. And even if you just ignore the recommendations given here, but they want you to process this information. But you will process information faster than the ones here. Why? Because there is the important element of price coming in, right? So always, as a human and as a customer, and we are focused on pricing aspects. Okay. And then this one is quite similar to your Google search engine results, right? And you always know that the Google search engine results are ranked based on certain elements, right? So based on your search query, and it pulls maps that with the keyword that is already there within the websites and gives you the exact results that you want. So they try to fulfill the goal that you have. And the propensity to click the first link is always higher, right? Now, the only thing that differs is that you will not click these advertisements, but you will click the organic result that you get. We always know that, right? So because imagine that you are searching something online on Google, and what you do is that, okay, you search something and there are certain product recommendations on the top and also on the sides. You normally skip those things. But why they present this information to you, despite knowing that you will not click, is because the probability of clicking those information will be higher. So even if you just click it 30% of the time, and Google gets revenue, and Amazon gets revenue, right? And also the probability of buying from the 30% click will be even somewhere around little 30%. There is no, I don't know the exact numbers, but there'll be a little evidence that, okay, there'll be certain sort of buying behavior happening over there. Or at least by presenting these advertisements, I get my brand name across to people, right? Imagine we probably Indian customers may not really know about Biko, and Biko is available in Germany, right? So now imagine you as a customer, Biko is advertised in India, and in the initial cases, this was not in your choice set, right? So whenever you're trying to buy certain products, certain washing machines or something, and you have n number of brands in your mind. For example, the Indian customers will have like Samsung, okay, Whirlpool, LG. These are consideration set. So these are the brands that you consider. Now, the new brand like Biko is not in your consideration set. So by providing this advertisement to you, so what they do is like they add Biko into the consideration set. So you'll also evaluate now. Before you had only 3 choices in front of you, now you have the 4th brand coming into play, right? So that is how they kind of influence your decision making. And later, this is one way they kind of promote, they kind of market the product. The other way, they also facilitate your product selection or your decision making. So one is your prime delivery is like if you're focusing on quick and faster delivery, and you do that, but this is not the goal here. But we normally, when you're having uncertainty in buying, you normally rely on people. And the customer review is one choice heuristics that people make, right? So you go and select this, you basically filter down products based on the reviews that was there. So this is like 4 stars plus. And the propensity to click 4-star plus will be higher than the ones that are like 1 star and other things, because you don't want a product that is kind of having a lower rating, right? So people will generally click this one, though these things are not normally used by people, but still they will give you because that's how the choices are supposed to be presented. And in this case, you'll click this one and go to products that are having higher reviews. Okay, and similarly, they definitely know that you will focus on brand, then you'll also focus on price, and those kind of information are presented. So this is sort of like input that they get from you. So you give some sort of input to the company, and based on your inputs, the first input that you gave is washing machine, right? The next input that you're giving is like customer review. If you're trying to do, if not many people will do, or like maybe a few people will do, but in general, if you're not sure about what products that you're supposed to buy, and you'll normally go with the customer review. So that's kind of social proof. So you're relying on other people's choices and other people's feedback in general. So it gets a bit tricky here, right? So I told you that they'll facilitate the process here. And that's why some companies scrupulously ask other, they pay people to write positive reviews.
Okay.
So we need to be careful about that. So you do screen that, but it's still, you can also be deceived by certain sort of paid reviewers. And now what they do is, like the researchers here across the globe, they're trying to see how we can detect these kind of fake reviews by using certain algorithms. So that's one area of research, right? So they use something called a sentiment analysis and find, okay, so what's the sentiment score across this text, sexual information, and find whether it is a correct review written by the actual user or something, the user who writes with a fake intention, or are they being paid? Okay. Right. So now you kind of understand, right? So how you search information online and how you search information for any kind of product. So even this is kind of similar thing that happen when you go to a normal retail store. So when you go to the retail store, you go to an aisle, or it's like kind of a display, and then look at some brands first, and then price, and then you process information. Okay, but there's no input given, no input over there. So there's like, you cannot filter and find information. But there, what happens is that your search will be based on what is present at the eye level. And people already know that by research in the early 2020, it was like, it was said that eye level is buy level, right? So if any product is placed on your eye level, and you will know the probability of buying those products displayed at the eye level is higher. But the recent research study that basically says or claims, they have done an extensive study in a store across different people. It's a massive eye tracking data set. So what they found is that it is not the eye level is buy level. It is just 1 feet below the eye level is the buy level. Right. So you normally don't go and look at those displays like this, right? You have this tendency to put your heads down like this, right? So 1 feet below the eye level is the buy level, right? So many marketers will still believe that, okay, that's the eye level is the buy level, but it's not the case based on the recent research study, right? So now we know how people search information in a retail store, and how people search information in an online store, and what are things that kind of facilitate people, what kind of things that kind of makes people to make some suboptimal decision, and how it increases consideration set. Now, what happens is that you now done this particular basic search, then you move on to at product level, right? So you wanted to compare between those 3 or 4 products that you wanted to compare. Okay, so this is what we call attributes, right? So each and every product has its own attribute. What I mean by attribute, these are certain the information that is presented here, like customer rating, price, sold by, drying, those kind of information are attributes. So people rely on these attributes and evaluate these attributes across the products, compare them, and then arrive at a decision. So there are different ways people can explore these attributes. Some people might look at the product. So the natural way of eye movement is that you start from here, like customer rating, and then you go towards your right, finish it, and then come to the price, and then you go here. And this is called as attribute-wise product evaluation. So you compare between attributes that are presented for 3 or 4 choices, and then do it. The other way is called option-wise evaluation. So you go in the option way. So instead of comparing between attributes, you just go, okay, so I'll start with customer rating, and then go with price and who sold it and other things. So the eye movement will go like this. Right? And technically, the pattern of eye movement that I showed later on, so then the later part is like, okay, so you move with the option basis called as integrating. But when you start from here and then you move between options in the attribute manner, it's called as comparing. In the researchers and also like famous choice researcher like Eric J. Johnson, he published a recent book that is called as Elements of Choice. and just got released a couple of months ago, and in Germany just released a couple of weeks ago. And he writes this information, right? How people compare and where people may go wrong when they do evaluation. So when you compare between attributes one by one, like you move your eyes like this, and then you compare between prices, and there you'll make kind of optimal decision. So you'll make a better choice when you do attribute-based processing. However, if you're not doing this attribute-based processing, but you just compare, integrate information within one choice, so you evaluate information within this one choice, then it might lead to suboptimal choices, right? Because you're just evaluating one option at one time. So there is nothing like you comparing between these options. Okay. And this is kind of influenced by the layout that was given to you, right? So this is kind of vertical layout, and the vertical layout of these the option wise layout or vertical layout kind of allows you to compare between choices. For example, say it's brand A, it's supposed to be brand B, but just given as brand C. Pardon me for that, but and then you have blue, green, red, and prices like this, right? And imagine if they have flipped this around. So you have brand A here, brand B here, and brand C here, and you have brand, color, price. And in that case, it's called a horizontal layout of choices. So in the vertical layout of choices, people normally read from the left to right, and they normally go for attribute-based processing. But if you're going to present the same information in the horizontal layout, then you will not actually do this attribute-based processing. You'll definitely do sometimes, right? So you will, but the eye movement will be, imagine this brand A, brand B, brand C. And if you are trying to process this attribute-wise, and you'll have to do like this. It's a bit complex for you because it's not a naturalistic eye movement. So the companies can also make you to process one brand at a time. So by presenting these choices in the horizontal manner. So where your decisions can also be suboptimal. So you need to be very careful when your choices are presented in a horizontal layout. Okay. And then also they can make things complex for you because once it's the same picture again, but in a different context of explanation, where I'm trying to say that when there are n number of choices or n number of information presented to you, and you will get deceived by information, or like you will not be able to process all the information. Right? Okay, so what I did for this particular task is that I went into a certain product and then picked that product, and I wanted to evaluate that product between other choices. So what Amazon does is that, okay, so after I clicked one washing machine, I come down and compare 4 similar washing machines. So what they have done is like they have grouped based on the prices given here, right? So any product that is, this is a selection, this is my selection where I'm trying to look at that product especially. Then I come down and then Amazon presents me 4 other choices where I can compare with. But what Amazon has done is that they have looked at the product similarities and then the price as being one dominant attribute. And they presented in, other choices that are more or less than the price levels. So they assume that I'll always buy some product that is more than 600 euros. Right? But that may not be the case all the time, right? So I have a budget line, definitely, for sure. But this sort of attracted me, so I wanted to go for this one, right? So they leave out certain choices to process, right? So you do not know even the best of the best machines at the cheaper cost, right? And also you also avoid some machines that are very costly but environmentally friendly or good for you in the long run, right? So it may not benefit you today, but it may benefit you in 8 years time, because like there are 2 levels of decision making in general. So one is the higher level decision making. So you look at different products, you look at different information, you process information many a time. Example would be like a laptop. Imagine you want to buy a laptop. It is not one day decision, right? So you'll not arrive at a conclusion by just going to the store and say, let me buy this laptop. Okay, I like this laptop. But instead, what happens is that you go to the store and evaluate certain products, you go to different stores and then also evaluate the laptops and ask your friends about the laptop and then do. This is higher, it's a complex decision-making task, right? But in the lower level, it's a kind of simple decision tasks are like buying soap, because you will not really worry about buying it because you regularly buy certain products or brands. It's very simple. It is easy for you to work with. And also, if you take the soap information, like soap product, right? So you don't have some preferences. The preferences are actually set by your parents. So if your mom has used Margo, and then you'll also use Margo. If your mom has suggested you sandal, Mysore sandal soap, and you also buy the same, right? So it's normally kind of family-oriented products. Right?
Exactly.
And also, when you're trying to buy some vegetables and or meat products, you don't really care because you know where to go, because that's also kind of suggested by your mom or your parent, right? So there are intergenerational information transitions happening. But now you can also see a shift in the kind of decision making, because youngsters want to be kind of independent and then they make their own choices. If mom used Margo, now the daughter or son will be using Dove or something. You'll not be using the same product. So that's a shift in the people's decision making right nowadays. So the market should also be very careful about the change in how people how the generations have transformed. Okay, right. So if I have complex information, the key takeaway that I want to put across is that if you have complex choices, if you have a number of choices, and people will normally do these kind of heuristic processing. So they will skip off certain information because they don't have enough time to do it. And you can also imagine yourself when you, if you take the laptop example. So what you could have done what you would have done is like you go to the store and ask, okay, so my budget is like 30,000. Yeah. And you will ask the salesman saying, okay, tell me which is a good laptop for me. Right. Or you will say like 50,000 is my budget, but tell me what are the best laptop, or put me across the range. And now you're relying on other person to make a decision for you, right? And they can also make your decision wrong. It can happen. For example, say they can employ some sort of technique called as anchoring, right? If you say that your budget line is 50,000, they also know that there is plus or minus on these budget lines. So they will definitely come and say, so there's a laptop for 60,000 rupees, and it's very good. It's better, suitable for your work, and they'll suggest you this. Now, what you have done is like you have shifted your budget line from 50,000 to 60,000, but you will not immediately do, but you will kind of battle. Okay, is it worth? No, your processing is not anything below 50,000 now, right? So they have actually shifted that processing now, information processing now. So your decision now will be like, okay, I will not buy anything at 60,000. Maybe I can give 5,000 extra. So you will evaluate products at 55,000. So actually you skipped off everything that was below 50,000. Yeah. So that's the initial piece of information that you encounter while you are evaluating choices will have an influence on your further evaluation. Right? If he has said that, okay, there are certain products that are actually at 40,000, then you'll actually say, oh, okay, that's really good. Maybe I need to buy these products. And I need to evaluate these kind of choices. So you will not skip all these higher level price products, right? So that is how we encounter information, that how we evaluate certain things. Now let me give you an actual example of how companies use these kind of information, how they understand customers and how they present information to customers to influence them. Yeah. Okay, so many of you probably might have subscribed for Netflix, right? And when you go for Netflix, there are 3 options. There might be even 4. Right? This is from the US example, but Indian example would be very different, probably in terms of pricing and other things. But if you look at, there are certain things here that you need to encounter, right? So one of the choice, there are 3 options given for you, right? This is option 1, this is option 2, this is option 3. And one of the choice is highlighted here. And there's a great goal in highlighting this, right? So whenever you go to this choice page, one of the choice will be highlighted. Either the middle one or the highly priced ones are highlighted because they want you to attend this information first. So this is called a saliency effect or a want rest of effect. So what they do is they want you to attend this information by presenting a contrasting color. And since these are kind of masked, and your attention will not go directly to this, but your attention will immediately go to this because that is kind of highlighted. So this is also called as contrast effect. So Now remember the example that I told you earlier, like kind of anchoring, right? So they don't want you to look at the cheap price product. They want you to evaluate the high price product. So that is why they highlighted this one. So now you'll evaluate this one. Okay, so now I get 4K HDR. I can use it across 4 devices. Oh, I think it's good, right? Then I'll look at these things later on. But what happens if I just kept this as highlighted? So now your entire thought process will not go in terms of the quality that you're going to get, but you'll just think about the cost that you're going to incur from your pocket. Then you will think, okay, oh, $8, $8 is okay for me, but maybe I can just move a little bit, I think, but I cannot definitely go for like 17 or 18 euros per month. Right? So your entire evaluation strategy kind of shifted from the quality that you're getting to the money that you're going to pay every month. Right? So, but in general, what people do normally is that they will go for another thing that is called as compromise effect. And imagine if you're a person who wants to take a decision here, right? And or even imagine me taking a decision here, and what I could have done here. People normally go for the middle choices, right? So they think the smallest, the least, right? So the highest price is the most highest. I know maybe I'm not really happy with that. People normally end up in buying the middle choices. Right? This was tested across 3 choices and also tested across 5 choices and 7 choices. But when people are presented with even choices, people battle. The complexity of the choice increases because they are not really sure which one is the middle option. But here, in this case, it kind of tells you standard is maybe the best because you don't want the basic or premium. Yeah. And this happens even if you shift this information, shift this highlighting process for basic as well. This can also, because the effect that I'm trying to say is that people gravitate more towards this middle option. Okay, because they think that, okay, that is the optimal decision for them. Right. So this is how a company normally can influence your choices. Yeah, because they understand how you process information, how you evaluate the information. So instead, if they want to move away from every single thing, like they don't want to influence your choices and they want you to process all the information, they will definitely highlight all the 3 information for you, all the 3 choices for you. They will not suggest you something. Okay, right. So these are things that companies do. Now, this is how you evaluate choices. But researchers are always interested in making your choice better. Okay, and also I work in the area of like making the choices better for people, right? So especially I work in the area of making people's decision better in terms of environmentally friendly stuff. I want people to buy more environmentally friendly washing machines or like any equipments that they buy, but those are kind of a long short decisions, not a short span one, right? And people might have heard about this many times because nudging and choice architecture is the research ground nowadays, right? There are 6 techniques that I'm listing out, but this is not all the techniques that's used by people to nudge towards or facilitate decision making. So one is called as incentives, right? So give people money, extra money for them, and then so tell them, okay, this is going to help you in the long run. Okay, I'll pay you. Imagine for blood donation, I'm going to pay you money, right? So that kind of increases your propensity to save, but it's not the case. Like people also found this in the other way around. But in general, when incentives are given to you, people will make better choices. And this was studied by one other researcher from Tamil Nadu, where he's now working in Spain. Where what he has studied is that he studied about how people can given money, what happens when people were given money to reduce their cell phone usage. They were given incentives. They were given money for 30 days if they do not use the cell phone for certain. No, there are immediate calls and there are certain information. There are certain calls that they are supposed to attend. Right? Beyond that hours, and if they don't touch the cell phone, and they were given money. So they did this for like 30-40 days. And what they found is that even after 40th day and 50th day, even after not giving the money, and the habit kind of sustained because you got used to it. And understanding mapping is that some things are not it's not easier for us to evaluate, right? So you cannot, for example, say it's harder for you to process, like, okay, what is 1 gigabyte of information, or what is 2 gigabytes of information? Sorry, right? But you definitely know when Steve Jobs told you that, okay, so 1 gigabyte of no, if you have a 1 GB iPod with you, you can store 500 songs. Easier for you to process it. So you can map these information properly, then they can facilitate choices. And we have some examples for giving feedback and also for default. So I'll just skip, and also I think we have something for expect error, but I'll just explain structuring complex choices, right? And this, because this basically tells you what I explained earlier, right? So because if you just present information in a vertical manner or as a horizontal manner, can have an influence on your choice. And also the order of presentation of information also have an influence on your choices. Imagine if I just present price first, I'm not allowing it to evaluate other choices, other attributes. You will only process price. And that is why some of the online companies, right, they don't present price initially. If you want to get the price for this particular product, you'll have to write an email and then write a quote, or send an email to them. Then they will come with a quote and say, okay, for your need, and we'll give this price. Because if you just present price and then, okay, they'll just move on because this is not in my budget line, I don't want to consider this, right? Now let's go to some visual examples for defaults. Defaults are certain. In most of the times, you don't want to make a decision for yourself. Right? You don't know what to select, and what companies do is that they select something automatically for you. Here you can see these are default selections, right, made by the company, like AppSumo. They want you to, if you go to this page and these choices are already selected, you can just click submit and then go. And what happens is that eventually you got subscribed to all the emails that they want to send. Okay. And they can also facilitate your choice by making it active. So they can shut off these things without making it default. Then you make an active choice. So when you want to make make an active choice, you'll select no. Right. So this is how sometimes, like when you install software, you will not know, you'll be installing 3-4 other softwares without your knowledge, because you accepted all these default settings. Yeah. So you need to be careful when you encounter defaults. Expect error is that, okay, so whenever you look at certain doors, if they have a strong handle, your intention is normally to pull it, not push it, right? But not all the doors are designed in a very good way, right? Because I have seen many of the doors in my university as well. Some with the same big handle, you need to pull. When you see the same handle again, you need to push. So you need to expect what kind of mistakes people will make. And based on that, you need to facilitate the decision making, right? For example, in this case, if this is a kind of push door, they just need to remove the handles here. Okay, so find the error that people can make, error that people can make normally, and work based on that. And feedback is that you normally get feedback. For example, say if you are on the street, if you're just increasing your speed by, if you're reaching the speed limit, then it will become red. And if it is not, it will say a smiley and then thank you. This is kind of feedback that is given to people. So when people make wrong choices, if you give them feedback on those choices, and that will definitely help everyone. Okay. And this is a list that we discussed. Again, I want to explain these things later, but I explained it already, right? So this is how the choice architects or researchers are trying to help people in making better choices. So this is a very short introduction to you all to explain about how consumers make decisions and how these decisions can be facilitated. Okay, and thank you for listening.
Can you minimize the screen, sir? Minimize the presentation.
I can stop.
Minimize the presentation screen.
Sure. Is it okay?
Yeah, I just want to maximize our video.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. One final last point, just for the viewers' benefit. Can you briefly tell me about your doctorate program in Munich, Germany?
Sure.
Very short, briefly.
Yeah. So right now I'm actually working on choice architecture techniques, and I want to facilitate better decision making of people. In terms of, I'm looking at sustainability aspects, especially if there is a sustainable product, it's normally costly, right? So, but people don't buy it. But when they buy those sustainable products in the long term, that is really helpful for them financially, and also it is helpful for the environment. And but just because the price is really high in the first case, in the first instance that they look at, and they will not buy that. And so my goal is to look at how people make decisions in this context and how we can facilitate. And I'm actually working with Professor Dr. Christoph Ungemark, and who proposed a theory called translated attribute. So when you just translate the information, for example, I told you some examples like Apple can give you 1 gigabyte of storage, or maybe they can allow you to store 500 songs. And this is translation of information. So it's the same information, but translated to other way. But the evaluation will be better when you are just saying that, okay, you can store 500 songs. Right? It's a better way to market things. And what we do is like we present people about, okay, so what's the long-term savings that people can make? Or similarly, we'll tell that, okay, yeah, there are a lot of emissions that happens because you buy this. You can reduce emissions by buying an sustainable product. So, but we also employ eye tracking, like we capture eye movements of people. We also capture mouse movements of people, and then measure what kind of information that they attend and how we can better, how we can help people in making better choices.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Balachandar, for spending
Yep.
your valuable time, sharing your knowledge and experience, and all the best for your future endeavors. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me. And it's a very good
It's my
opportunity
pleasure.
to
It's
share.
my pleasure.
Thank you.